if Homer Simpson were a real person and I had to explain anything, I'd get the same kind of results I'm getting from trying to explain to some individual commenting on my YouTube videos uh, what a spectrum is. Whoever this person is, I've repeatedly and I've repeatedly explained that if this person knew the definition of spectrum, then whoever this person is would know better than to cyber harass me for knowing that there are varying degrees of autism. Uh, Somebody is trolling my videos uh, by giving me a hard time because I won't say that autism is inherently a good thing. I'm like, you claim to know what a spectrum is, but you're denying that there are varying degrees of autism, like you haven't heard of the term autism spectrum. It's really ridiculous that these comments keep happening. This is an example of why the comments are held for review. Yeah, it's that bad. Some of the negative feedback includes actual cyber harassment. I've repeatedly had to reblock the same individual who keeps creating accounts, and they keep getting blocked, and then that keeps repeating throughout years. And it's because of actual cyber harassment. I'm not exaggerating. I'm literally getting cyber harassed. And I get falsely accused of self-hatred. I'm like, why? I take a stand against ableism by documenting the abuse inflicted upon people on the autism spectrum. And I get accused of ableism. I'm like, how would that make me ableist? I'm like, ableist against who? Myself? And then the accusations of self-hatred continue, and the rationales include that I simply mentioned the existence of more severe cases than my own. It's like, how could that make me ableist? I didn't say there was anything inherently wrong with people who have a more severe case than my own. I'm not discriminating against them. Simply mentioning that I know that more severe cases exist, that doesn't have anything to do with hating anyone. And how could that be self-hatred? Even if that were self-hatred, I could have sworn I just said more severe cases than my own. If mentioning the existence of more severe cases could possibly count as being hateful towards people who have more severe cases, that still wouldn't mean that the accusation of self-hatred would make any sense. Whoever this person is who keeps cyber harassing me should seriously read a dictionary and look up some words. Here's some words to look up. Self. This person apparently hasn't looked up the definition of spectrum, nor self, nor hatred. All of these words this person keeps saying apparently don't mean whatever this person thinks they mean. And, in a lot of cases, I would say do more than read a dictionary, maybe also read an encyclopedia. But if whoever this is would simply spend a few seconds looking up the definitions of a few words, that could be all it would take. And yet, that doesn't happen. A person who could easily Google the definition of words hasn't done so. Instead, I've been getting cyber harassed for years. And I also get a lot of positive feedback. I get a lot of support. I exposed a lot of abusers by documenting the abuse inflicted upon people on the autism spectrum, including myself. And I get told all sorts of nonsense like because of the privacy laws, they won't tell you who the roommates are, you moron. Like, that's worth saying to someone who got housed with a known sexual predator who had repeatedly been arrested for stalking and sexual harassment. Well, the staff members, they were hiding in the office. They didn't monitor him. They knew his history. I don't need to hear that the reason they didn't tell me his history was because of privacy laws. They hide in the office. They do nothing, and they get easy paychecks. And they housed me with some creep who repeatedly got arrested for sexual harassment and stalking. And the main reason he keeps getting away with it is because of the continuum of care by the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. Their staff members keep helping him get away with what he does. And instead of protecting whoever is housed with him, they inflict revenge upon a resident, in this case myself, for correctly noting that it's not okay, that they don't have to do anything. All they have to do is stay in the office and get an easy paycheck, and yet they get away with abusing me because they got called out for their negligence. They housed me with some creep who kept throwing out my belongings, and his history of stalking and sexual harassment was mentioned on the Hall of Fame on the official website of the Continuum of Care. That didn't violate the privacy laws because they had permission or something like that. But simply mentioning the privacy laws and calling me a moron within the context is outrageous. But why would it matter that the privacy laws don't allow them to warn me about this guy they housed me with? It doesn't matter that privacy laws exist. That's off topic because they knew what he does. They kept letting him get away with destroying stuff in the house and wasting taxpayers' money. And then they wasted taxpayers' money by wasting electricity to burn my eyes, worsening the headaches and the migraines. Oh, yeah. I was nearly blinded. They don't care because they're not paying the electric bill. Taxpayers are. Just like they don't care when some instigator destroys the TV or destroys this or destroys that. He threw out my food. He didn't eat my food. He threw out my food. I'm like, damn, and people think I'm a weirdo. At least I'm not throwing out somebody's food for no reason. It's like, I didn't do anything that give him a motive to be hostile towards me. He throws out my food to spite me, but there's nothing to spite me for. They housed me with one of the worst of the so-called clients within that company. And I'm told I'm a moron for saying they abused me by housing with him just because privacy laws exist. No, I'm not a moron. I already knew about the privacy laws. I didn't need anybody to cyber harass me and call me a moron and mention the privacy laws when I'm taking a stand against ableism by telling my survival story, okay? I was able to get out of that company that did that to me. And yeah, that's how bad the cyber harassment is. There's a comment saying, learn to be independent. When I'm telling a survival story, now that I'm actually able to get back on my feet, I'm told to learn to be independent. That's a comment on a video with footage from years ago. I wasn't allowed to be independent. I was subjected to conservatorship. Somebody I knew in real life told me rent is standard. Like he thought he was on the inappropriate response channel on Late Night with Conan O'Brien. If I had been allowed to choose where to reside, I wouldn't have been in an improper setting where the people who got paid rent were torturing me for writing critical reviews about them because they housed me with some creep while they're hiding in the office, and he waited for me at the gazebo at a public park, so I definitely couldn't escape him. It's not like I could escape this guy by taking a walk, you know. Yeah. I'm told to learn to be independent when I was deprived of independence in the probate court. It's called conservatorship. A different person I knew in real life also referenced the inappropriate response channel on Late Night with Conan O'Brien by telling me to get a lawyer. Due to being deprived of independence in probate court, I wasn't allowed to get a lawyer. A conservator, a person who's since been replaced, was abusing me, and somebody really thought that despite suffering under conservatorship, I could inexplicably get a lawyer. Like there's miraculously such a thing as getting a lawyer while a political prisoner. I was under the conservator of person wouldn't let me get a lawyer. A conservative person can't call a lawyer and file a lawsuit. If I tried, I would have been told to tell the conservator to file the lawsuit on my behalf. And somebody really thought he could fool me into thinking that he thought I could get a lawyer. No, he knew I couldn't get a lawyer. He's not sorry to hear that. No, he was never my friend. He was faking a friendship. He pretended to be sorry to hear that, and he told me to get a lawyer, knowing I can't get a lawyer, just like that fool who told me rent is standard, knowing I can't just move out of the place because they're torturing me. You know, if I had been living in a better setting, paying somebody else rent, then I wouldn't have been messaging him, pleading with him to transport me to a better setting so I could get a break from getting tortured. I already didn't drive before. I'm definitely not about to drive now that I was nearly blinded by constant bright lights. They don't care about the ecosystem. They'll waste taxpayers' money while they're wasting electricity, presuming taxpayers don't care about the ecosystem. They're also presuming taxpayers are as terrible as them, like everybody who pays taxes is necessarily enough of an asshole to not have a problem with torturing me for writing critical reviews about them because of what they did to me. Not everybody is really that terrible. Some people might care. If the media would let me tell my story on the news and enough people heard about the story, there might be some public uproar about the damage done to the ecosystem just to do damage to my eyes because I wrote critical reviews about torturers who couldn't resist the urge to continue torturing me by leaving the lights on to waste electricity. How terrible. You know, they're wasting somebody else's money. And it's like, who are you to presume that nobody else cares about these things? People care about stuff like this. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but yeah, I know enough about how things are, you know. There are people who care enough that if I were allowed to tell my story on the news, and enough people saw me on the news talking about this, there's no way literally nobody would care. Of course, at least somebody's going to care if the media would let me tell my story. Look, I don't act like the fictional characters on the sitcoms glorifying autism, so the media censors me. Contrary to the absurd misconception that my story doesn't concern the general public, it does for many reasons. Taxpayers got ripped off by these scammers who waste electricity torturing me. B, they damage the ecosystem while they're trying to blind me. People care about the ecosystem. That concerns the general public. Yeah, the media had the nerve to say they don't have any reason to report my story, like taxpayers neither care about the ecosystem nor the fact that a person got tortured for writing critical reviews of the people torturing him. They literally tortured me a lot more and wasted somebody else's money on a ridiculously high electric bill. And I called a local news station. He said this doesn't concern the general public. Yeah, like nobody cares about wasted electricity and torturing people. It's like, what? Where did you get the audacity to say this doesn't concern the general public? People complain all the time about the money that gets wasted on the worst of the worst things a person can waste money on. Taxpayers' money gets pissed away on some of the most ridiculous things I have ever heard of. And I'm not allowed to tell my story on the news like people don't also care about the ecosystem. They let the electric bill keep getting higher. And they don't care. And